At patreon.com/the Derek Lamont Experience, your one-stop shop for your wrestling news. It is WrestleMania week. We finally made it. It is this time every year. Actually, it's a little earlier normally. I don't know why it's at the end of the month, but there was talk. I don't know if it's next year's. There's a WrestleMania. It might be next year's where it's going to actually take place in May, which I think would be the latest ever, because generally it would hover around the end of March till to early April. But here we are, like it's Easter weekend. If you are one of the initiated, happy 420. Um, it's just weird that the timing has it pushed to where it is. I think it's a mixture of things. Um, the NFL and WWE kind of not working the same calendar at all, but they're working within the same spaces. The Super Bowl is the NFL has a mandate that the Super Bowl has to be held at a stadium with 60 to 70,000 plus seating or something like that, and WrestleMania is the show of shows, so they want it to be as big as a house as they can. This year they're in Las Vegas. This is their second time in Las Vegas. WrestleMania 9 was in Las Vegas. That is the site of the infamous Hogan basically pulling a Hogan. Bret Hart had no idea. There's a documentary on Peacock right now. It's called something like The Spectacle or something like that. They show you how they basically set it up. They were recording it for behind the scenes footage, and this is the time where they were still trying to keep the business, and kayfabe was still a thing. So as they're recording this, the wrestlers are watching the guy walk by with the camera. He's like, "What the fuck are you doing here with this camera?" It's very very strange. Because remember, this is WrestleMania 9 has got to be like 92 or 93 or something like that. I have to actually go back and check the calendar. But um, yeah, they show it was basically at the time this area of Caesar's Palace was a parking lot. Now it's like a convention, not a convention center, like a conference center or something like that. It's very beautiful now. But if you want to know more about this, you should check out that documentary on Peacock. If you're on Patreon, I believe you guys are getting this on Wednesday, I want to say. I don't know. I haven't ironed it out in my head. And then on the free feeds, this will go live on Saturday morning in time for you to listen before the actual show starts this evening. So I have the card in front of me. I have the community's picks provided by a very special person. Shout out to you. Love you. And I'm going to, give you the community's picks, and I'm going to give you my pick, and we're going to go through every match, night one and night two. I don't have them in any particular order. I'm just on bleacherreport.com. I don't know if they have them in the order of how they're going to actually go down on the card, but it is what it is. It does not matter. So let's go ahead and get into this. So, number one, World Heavyweight Championship match, Jey Uso versus Gunther. If Uso and Gunther are not going to headline Saturday's card, which we know they are not, what better way to still leave a lasting impression than by having them kick off this year's festivities? Uso presumably wins his first championship in a strong opener. Fans have a monumental moment to buzz about right out the gate, and WWE gets the most important event of its year off to a hot start. That's what Bleacher Report. Bleacher Report has Jey Uso winning. Um, the community also has Jey. The comment says if he loses, take main event Jey Uso out of his name. I think that's 100% right. You can't have him. Well, number one, here's the problem. It's not the main event. And number two, I talked about this on the last word. Um, the problem, actually, you know what? I just thought about something. This is gonna have to go live at the same time. The problem with this whole main event thing is the only true main event is the last match that goes on to end the show. I'm not talking about the last match on night one. I'm talking about the last match on night two. That is the only true main event. Nothing else follows the main event. The only thing that follows the main event in WWE at WrestleMania is Raw the next night. I'm sorry, the post-show press conference and then Raw the next night. That's the true main event. All this, oh, we're headlining night. You can headline night one. There's nothing wrong with that. I have a problem with them telling CM Punk, you're main eventing. You're not. He's really not. We need to really stop trying to like, oh, the triple main event, blah, blah, blah. No, no. When you main event, you close the show. Nobody comes behind you. So, um, main event Jey Uso, I don't know. I have Jey winning. I think Gunther has his reign of terror, or whatever you want to call it, has gone on. He held the IC title for quite some time. He's held the World Heavyweight title for quite some time. I think that now Cena's starting to wind down. I think we'll get to Cody when we get to him. You have to kind of build him into the picture for the WWE Championship, which the World Heavyweight Championship is basically the lineage of the big gold belt from WCW and the NWA, right? Um, but Vince, who's no longer with the company, however, he would never put that title above the WWE title. Now, there were some times where the World Heavyweight Championship was the last match that went on at WrestleMania, but remember, they basically unified the big gold belt and the WWE belt and made one title. And then when you start getting, to the point where you have all this talent and you have one Royal Rumble winner, and you have to find something for all these guys to do, your big guys, like your Codys, um, your Romans, you have all these different guys, and there's only one belt. What do we do? And then also remember, they gave us the Universal title, and then Roman basically unified that with the WWE title. So you have to introduce another title at that point. Um, but make no mistake about it, the WWE title is still considered the top prize because this is the World Wrestling. This is World Wrestling Entertainment. I'm still a WWF guy. Um, but yeah, I think Jay wins this, and I think that Gunther goes into the WWE Championship picture. I think he starts chasing that title. I would not be surprised if we revisit this in January of next year, and Gunther may win the Royal Rumble. That's just where my head is right now. It makes all the sense in the world. Um, Number 2, World Tag Team Championship match, the War Raiders versus the New Day, which should be a solid tag team title match between two teams who know each other well, continues the action. New Day should be the favorites to win here and take the titles, but regardless, the action should be good enough to keep this one from becoming the dreaded cool-down match, even if the beef between the teams is relatively one-dimensional. The community says, I don't know, and I don't really care. New Day, I guess. I'm also going with the New Day. Um, I don't know. This is really on Paul. And when I say Paul, I mean Triple H, aka Hunter. I think this is his call. I think it should be the New Day. They're the bigger draw. They've been, the name on the marquee as far as tag teams have gone for at least a decade now. Well, I don't even know if they've been a team for maybe not. No, no. They are the marquee team of the matchup, right? Um, I'm not a fan of the War Raiders, which weren't they the Viking Raiders or something like that? I think that we should have left all that kiddie shit, stupid characters back in the new generation. When WCW started kicking their ass in the Monday Night Wars because they had Kane walking out as a dentist before he became Kane. They had a guy in hockey gear named the Goon. Just think about like Dink and Doink and all that shit. Really gimmicky characters. I wouldn't go as far as to call Vikings a gimmick, but the Viking Raiders, grown men and a woman who was named Valhalla, walking around in Viking garb in modern day sports entertainment kind of felt gimmicky. So I've never really got behind them. Now, I could also make the I could pull the Issa Rae / Wale and be like, sue me, I'm rooting for everybody that's black, right? But I'm not going to do that. If it's a good team, if it was Matt and Jeff versus the New Day, I'm going to roll with the Hardy Boys. I'm going to keep it a buck with you. Like, keep it all the way a buck with you. In this particular instance, I still think it should be the New Day. That's just where I am right now. Number 3, Jade Cargill versus Naomi. Cargill's revenge tour stops at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas as she squares off with a former friend turned for Naomi, who cost her months of her career after shoving her from a platform through a car windshield. This could be one of the more emotionally charged matches on the card and a defining moment in both competitors' careers. The community says, I want Naomi, but probably Jade. I'm going to say this. I think the video package is going to be really good. I have had this conversation with the community, and we collectively feel like that Jade should have went to the Performance Center and had a stint in NXT before coming up to the main roster. If you remember Jade's career in AEW, she didn't have these really big get you over matches, right? Um, a lot of it was more her telling Tony Schiavone cut the shit, and her promo game was actually really good. I will give her that. But as far as like groundbreaking matches, that she does not have. Naomi is a pretty good wrestler. I will give her that, right? Um, do I think she's natty? No. Do I think she's Charlotte? No. Do I think she can hang with the rest of the girls in the division? Absolutely. I wouldn't say, okay, you know what? Natty, Charlotte, Bailey, and then I will put Naomi there. I certainly think she's better than either of the Bella twins were. I could name probably a ton of wrestlers. I think she's better than Carmella ever was. Um, there's so many people. Do I think Naomi is seasoned enough and good enough to carry Jade Cargill for more than 8 to 10 minutes? No, I certainly don't. With this being some sort of revenge tour type of thing, I definitely feel like this is definitely going to Jade. I'm not gonna kid you. Um, this is the I had to come back and I had to overcome this injury, and you nearly took my career away, and you'll never take my career away, and this is WrestleMania and I have to rise to the occasion. And Naomi's at that point in her career where she's got to help get the younger talent over. I don't know how old Jay Cargill is. I know Brandon Phillips is around my age, and that's her husband. Brandon Phillips used to play. He was a middle infielder for the Cincinnati Reds. I don't remember if he played short or second, but he's around my age, and she's somewhere in the like she's in her 30s. So I wouldn't go as far as to call her like young talent, but as far as WWE goes, I would call her young talent. Um, Number four, Rey Mysterio versus El Grande Americano, arguably the potentially most fun match on the card. We'll see the culmination of Mysterio versus Chad Gable feud that has eaten up a considerable amount of TV time for months now, with two great in-ring competitors involved. This has the potential to be a show stealer. Um, Bleacher Report didn't pick a winner. Community says Chad Gable. I could go either way on this one. I gotta tell you, the minute Ray Jr. went into the Hall of Fame, and nobody calls him Ray Jr. anymore except for people who like remember watching him on WCW Nitro. I think that when you go into the Hall of Fame, you should hang up your boots. I just like you don't go into the Hockey Hall of Fame while you're actively playing. You don't go into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame while you're actively playing. Unless you're like you were on the Redeem team or something like that. There's some guys who are still playing. Braun is still playing, and the Redeem team goes into the Hall of Fame this year, right? You don't go into Canton if you're still playing in the NFL generally. So I am of the thought, and this is just me. I love Rey Mysterio. Don't get me wrong. I just think it's past. I think Rey's last match should have been when him and Dom went at it. I think that was WrestleMania 39 in LA. I really do. I think Chad Gable is probably one of the greatest technical wrestlers I've ever seen. He's, it's like Kurt Angle, the guy we can't mention because of what he did to his family, but we all know who I'm talking about, the Canadian, and Chad Gable. I think they're probably the three greatest technical wrestlers I've actually ever seen in my lifetime. Like they are that fucking good. And Dean Malenko's in that up there as well. And Malenko and He Who Shall Not Be Named were a tag team in WCW. They were four horsemen together. But again, I could go either way on this one, but I just Rey Mysterio Jr. has been in tons of WrestleManias. He's wrestled all around the globe. He he put asses in the seats at WCW. Um, what more does he have to fucking prove? You wrestled with your kid. I just don't know what else you have to prove at this point. I feel like that's a spot that somebody else could be taking. I'm just saying. I don't get this. Um, Number five, WWE Women's Championship match, Tiffany Stratton versus Charlotte Flair. A suddenly red hot match resulting from off-script promos. Stratton versus Flair feels like the first chapter in a rivalry rather than the culmination of a months-long story. Challenger Flair won the 2025 Royal Rumble, has been in the highest profile matches, and defeated the top stars in the industry. Stratton is in the infancy of her major push as one of the faces of the future. They don't really pick a winner. Community says Tiffy. I hope it's Tiffy time, but it feels like Charlotte. Charlotte has got into that cast 16 world championships. I can't remember how many Hothead Hogan has. I can't stand that fucking guy. Charlotte's closer to Hogan than she is to her own father in terms of where she stands in the industry. Charlotte at this point feels like she gets to call the shots when she wants to come back. And her coming back to win the Rumble was just a slap in the face to all the women that rode up and down the roads over the past year or so. I think the last time we saw Charlotte was at Mania when Rhea beat her. Yeah, I think so. Did Charlotte have that title? I can't remember. Her just popping back up like, yeah, it's time for me to come back. I'm going to win the Rumble. I go to Mania. Now, here's the thing. Paul and creative don't have to agree with her. They could say, hey, I see you doing this, and I think it would be nice if you would do this and help out the younger talent. But she's at that point where it's like the old joke about Hogan is you pitch him something, he's like, it doesn't work for me, brother. And it feels like Charlotte's at that point as well. And I'm sorry, I don't want to see Charlotte Flair beat Tiffany Stratton in this match. I just don't. I think that there's more. I was just watching Cultaholic Wrestling. I love their YouTube channel. And they had just random facts from every WrestleMania before this. And it's crazy that they actually had Charlotte face Rhea with the NXT title on the line and had Charlotte go over. Why the fuck did Charlotte had already been the NXT Women's Champion? She didn't need that fucking win. That was pointless. So when I sit back and look at this stuff, I'm just like, she's the Hogan of the women's division and of this modern era. And I can't imagine how much stuff they pitched to her. And she, did she shoot it down or whatever? I just don't. I'm against anybody having that kind of power from Gorilla Beyond. It doesn't go over well. It does not go over well. And I know all the conversation is about the promos going off script and this, that, and the third. And like I said, the only reason Charlotte is Rick's daughter and we love Rick and he's a fucking legend. You know, there's the old adage that Ric Flair could have a good match with a broomstick. But the only thing, she's one marriage behind Rick. Rick's been married 4 times. Charlotte's on 3, right? Rick's been married and divorced 4 times. Charlotte's been married and divorced 3 times at this point. But in terms of calling her shot in the business, she feels like Hogan at this point. And I'm, for one, just fucking sick of it. So I'm definitely pulling for Tiffany. Number 6, United States Championship match, LA Knight versus Jacob Fatu. Knight is one of the most popular stars in the company, essentially bulletproof at this point in his WWE career. The reigning United States champion, he enters the match after what feels like an eternity of feuding with the Bloodline. This really, though, is about Fatu and his rapid ascension since joining the company. This should be his coronation. Community has Jacob. I'm with that as well. I love LA Knight. I think maybe you throw LA Knight into the IC title picture. I know that's a lateral move because they're both mid-card belts. I just feel like you have to kind of start putting Jacob Fatu on the road to being a world champion, right? Here's the thing. Solo, they kept breeding Solo Sikoa to be like the guy, and it just was never there. He doesn't have the in-ring talent. He doesn't have a lot of charisma. Solo's best offering was standing behind Roman and Paul Heyman and looking like the strong silent type. He's not great at cutting promos. He's not a particularly great wrestler. I just don't see it for Solo. When I see Jacob Fatu, I can see the future. And he looks like a guy that can run roughshod over the company for years to come. And it feels like a Jacob versus Roman match would be the real coronation for Jacob at some point. And maybe you give Roman one more world title reign and Jacob be the one to take the strap off him. So I'm 100% for Jacob in this match. It feels like it's Jacob's night on Saturday. And then there's the Saturday quote-unquote main event. You already know how I feel about this. It's not the main event. It's just the headlining match of Saturday night. The true main event is the last match of the show, and nothing will follow it but Monday Night Raw. Let's be very clear about that. So we have CM Punk versus Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns. For the first time in his Hall of Fame-worthy career, CM Punk will compete in the main event of WrestleMania when he battles Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns in a triple threat match to cap off Saturday night. Punk has been engaged in a rivalry with Rollins since returning to WWE in November of 2023 and has issues with Reigns, at least on screen. Dates back to this year's Survivor Series, where he agreed to team with the Tribal Chief and OG Bloodline in exchange for a favor. That favor, Paul Heyman is in Punk's corner for the WrestleMania main event. With the Wise Men supporting his friend and not his Tribal Chief, what impact might he have on the match? Can Rollins, the MVP of last year's show and the one guy capable of playing mind games with Reigns to great success, emerge victoriously? How do we have Seth Rollins as the MVP of last year's show? He lost to Drew McIntyre, and then Damian cashed in on McIntyre because of Punk. Where did Seth have an MVP performance last year? I'm really lost on this. What is he looking for in return for sparing Heyman a stomp Monday night on Raw? The main event is layers and should be a dynamic contest deserving the spot on the card. I love CM Punk. I think, and I don't know this is just me spitballing. Really quickly, though, community says, I don't know, I'd be cool with Punk, Roman, or Seth. Punk because it's his Mania moment, Seth because he will win over Punk, and Roman because it's Roman in the bloodline. Here's what I think. I think that at some point when Phil and Paul had a conversation, once Vince was out the door and AEW did their best to fucking self-destruct, I don't know why they would show that footage of CM Punk and what's my guy, Jack Perry getting into it. Rest in peace to Luke Perry, Dylan McKay, 90210. I don't know why they would show that footage. The guy doesn't work for your company anymore, and it made him look stronger than the guy that still works for your company. I was at AEW Dynasty, and I was standing right above the area where Jack Perry ran out to come back to AEW. I just don't understand why they would do that. But I understood why Punk wanted out, because he thought he was going to get better over there than what he got at WWE, because he hated Vince. Like, I've probably seen 6 or 7 Colt Cabana matches, and I don't remember any of them. What I do remember is the Colt Cabana podcast with CM Punk, where he basically exposed everything that was going on between him and Paul and Vince at WWE. I have to imagine, because I remember when Tony Khan bought the, what is the other promotion? God damn it. Everybody worked there. When Tony Khan bought the tape library for whatever promotion that was, Daniel Bryan was there. Fuck, what was it? Ring of Honor. Fuck. I remember Punk saying, I'm happy that Tony bought it because Vince was going to buy it and I don't want Vince owning my history. And that was a huge statement. Once Vince walked out the door and we knew that he was done, the first, like, it's like, can CM Punk come back? Can Sasha Banks come back? I have to imagine at some point, Punk and Paul had a conversation where Punk was like, this is big to me. Let's talk about WrestleMania. And if somebody's like, yeah, you can main event WrestleMania, and then I showed up as the closing match on night 1, I'm sorry, I'd be a little pissed off. It's not the real main event. It's not even the main event. I've said this before. I've said it ad nauseum. Once you main event, nobody comes behind you. And there's a whole other fucking show the next night behind him. So this is not the main event. My biggest issue with this is Roman has no place in this match. And that tells me that creative could not come up with anything else for Roman Reigns. And they didn't believe that Roman versus Solo was big enough. Because Punk and Seth and Punk have real life heat. Punk was in a whole other company and Seth was dogging him. They don't like each other. So a 1v1 makes way more sense. This is not to shit on Roman. He does not belong in this match. The only reason he's in this match is because Solo couldn't cut the fucking mustard. Roman Reigns does not belong in this match. Paul Heyman is the twist that makes it look like Roman should be in the match. I can't pick a winner. I guess you can give it to Punk, but it's not like Punk hasn't won matches at Mania. He won when Money in the Bank was a WrestleMania specialty match. Punk won it 2 years in a row. He's been in big moments at WrestleMania. He has. I want to say he was the champion, and this is probably why he was so pissed. I'm pretty sure he was the champion in Miami for the first Rock and Cena match. And as the champion, yeah, he should have fucking main evented. He really should have. And I think that was part of his issue with them when Vince and Hunter brought him into the office, and he was like, Dwayne wants to come back for Mania. And then Punk's consolation was, you're gonna wrestle Triple H. And Punk he stopped Vince and said, he looked at Paul, he said, no disrespect, I have all the admiration and respect for you in the world, but I don't need to wrestle you. You need to wrestle me. And then he's like, well, I'm not in the main event. Like, sure you are. He's like, no, I'm not in the fucking main event. And for him to say that and then tell us he said that on the Colt Cabana podcast and then be like, Paul Heyman's like, you're in the main event and we're crying. This is bullshit. So I'm for Seth and Punk, and I would have Punk winning that one. I don't think Roman belongs in this match. And again, I feel like because it was OG Tribal Chief versus Solo calling himself the Tribal Chief, and that version of the bloodline didn't work because Tonga Loa got to WWE and forgot how to fucking work. When you go to New Japan Wrestling, you're supposed to come out a better fucking worker. Everybody else that came back on this side of the world, Finn Balor, Cody Rhodes, AJ Styles, Adam Cole, fuck, who else? The list goes on and on. They were all better workers for their time in Japan. All better workers. Tonga Loa got to New Japan Wrestling and was like, oh, this is cool. I don't know how this works, but when I go back to the United States, I'm going to be a better wrestler. And it's like, no, in fact, you're worse. You're emphatically worse than you were before you went over there. And I don't know. I could talk I could talk a whole fucking day about New Japan and the Bullet Club and what that meant to me. And I think it's probably one of the greatest factions in the history of wrestling. But we'll save that for another day. I can't call a winner in this match because you could objectively say he's the draw. There was a point in all of their careers, Roman most recently, but before Roman got crowned, remember, Roman's crowning achievement was supposed to come at WrestleMania 31. And then they had Seth cash in. And remember, Roman's dad wanted to beat the piss out of Vince at the after party because the whole family thought Roman was going over that night. And Vince pulled a fast one, having Seth go out. So more recently, Roman has been the man. There was a time period after Seth won that title where you could say that Seth was the best wrestler on the planet at that point. And there was a point, the summer of Punk, the pipe bomb, all that whole era, when he said, I'm the best in the world, you could arguably make that fucking case. I don't think any of them are at that point anymore. And again, Roman's is the most recent. I think Seth is still a very talented, valuable in-ring talent. I don't know if he has the fire for it the way he used to. There used to be a look in Seth's eyes when he held the WWE title and the US Championship. There used to be a look in his eyes, and I don't see that look anymore, right? And I'm not one of those people who's like, being a father makes you softer. Technically, it kind of does, because I'm a lot different as a dad 12 years in, as I was, opposed to that, right? Punk doesn't have any kids. I think he still eats, sleeps, and shits wrestling, but he's on the wrong side of 40, and I'll be 43 in June, and Punk is older than I am. They're good performers, so it should be a good match. And again, this is one where the video package is going to be fucking insane because they do have some crazy highlights. I can't pick this one, so it is what it is. This is a toss-up for me. So we head into Sunday night. A triple threat match for the Women's World Championship. Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky versus Bianca Belair. Three of the top stars in WWE kicking off the show in a match that could have been a legitimate main event contender on any other year. The three-way dance is a possibility of still all of WrestleMania and immediately rank as one of the best women's matches in the show's 4 decades. There's a lot of talent in this fucking match. There's not one weak spot in this match. There really isn't. Because you look around, oh, it's Io. No, it's not. Oh, it's Bianca. Definitely not. Oh, it's Rhea. It's definitely not fucking Rhea. All three of these girls can get in the ring and fucking go. This is a toss-up. I can't call it. The community has it. The community wants Bianca. Has a feeling it's going to be Io or Rhea. Yeah, it's a toss up because you legitimately can make a case for all three of them winning. You really can. Um, I think Rhea's moment probably came last year. Her entrance was amazing. Remember, I think she had fucking strep throat, and we didn't find out till afterwards, and she still went out and did her thing. Um, I think Bianca's true WrestleMania moment is when her and Sasha got to be the first all black main event and also women main event. That wasn't the first time women in main evented, but that was a big moment. Like I've shown that to my daughter multiple times. Like this is proof that you can do whatever the fuck you want to do, and nobody can stop you. And if nobody else believes in you, well, goddamn it, I believe in you. Just like all of their fathers believed in them and their mothers. This is a toss up, and I would hate for them to jump the show off with this. I get that Cody and John are gonna go last, but this could be a main event match right here. And with like, it's a shame that we won't hear the voice of Samantha Irvin, you know, announcing this match. But this is gonna be a great match. Second match of the night, fatal four-way match for the Intercontinental Championship. Penta versus Braun Breaker versus Dominic versus Finn Balor. Penta and Breaker will bring unbridled energy to the match, but this one will be as much about Mysterio and Balor and the gradual destruction of the Judgment Day. Expect their individual desire to win the Intercontinental Championship, sorry, to supersede their willingness to work together for the better of the group. Um, they're calling the destruction of the Judgment Day, and I'm calling the very same. Um, I think it's too early for Penta. Also, the IC belt is the workhorse belt, and I'm not saying that Penta's not a workhorse. How can you cut promos? How can you cut a fucking promo? Even if my guy Shinsuke Nakamura speaks in kind of broken English, he can still kind of cut a promo. Nakamura, another guy who's obviously Japanese, but his time in New Japan Wrestling just made him like when he got to NXT, like he had already cut his teeth on the other side of the world and came over here and went fucking bonkers. Um, Community says want Finn but don't really care. I'm also pulling for Finn. I'm a big Finn Balor guy. From what I have been told or what I've read, WWE has been preparing for the return of the Demon Balor. And I kind of feel like this would be a great spot for it. Um, this is undoubtedly the end of the Judgment Day. What's his name? What's the kid with the neck? JD McDonough, he's out. This is not the same Carlito that was in the Ruthless Aggression era. Raquel and Liv, we'll talk about them in a bit. It's over. It is over. Like, and that's why Rhea and Damien, like what happened with them last year was important because we knew that they were the true stars of the group. Remember, the Judgment Day was initially started by Edge, and then Damien came in, and then I think they recruited Rhea, and then they brought in Finn, and then Finn flipped it and got Edge out, and really it was Edge's way to exit the company because his contract was up and he wasn't going to renew. Um, I think it's run its course. I think they've elevated each member to a higher spot than they were. Remember, like I said, Rhea and Priest. I was never really a huge Damian Priest guy, but I respect his work ethic. It elevated him. Rhea was already on a great trajectory, in my opinion. I think it just took her to another notch. Um, I think it's definitely helped Liv Morgan. I think it's definitely helped Dominic. Um, yeah, I think it's run its course. The only person who's really going to be up shit's creek because Finn is always going to be one of the best. Finn is the first Universal Champion. People forget this, and the reason they forget is because he won the title at SummerSlam in the very first Universal Title Championship match, and he hurt himself in that match and had to give up the title the very next night, right? And we never saw him in like the world title picture from that point on, which is a fucking disaster. I'm pulling for Finn. I'm definitely, like I said, I'm a New Japan guy. I'm NXT Black and Gold. Um, I think Dominic has done a great job to come out of Ray Jr.'s shadow. It's crazy that we literally saw this kid. It's crazy. This is how you know you're getting old, when you see people that you knew were the wrestlers' kids when you were watching, when you were coming up, and now they're full grown adults. Like when Bailey was the hugger, Izzy was like her biggest fan, and Izzy's fucking wrestling now. That blows my mind. Um, but again, I think what this started at 38. What WrestleMania did that whole thing start? Like 38, if I'm not mistaken. And here we are, WrestleMania 41. I think the Judgment Day has just run its course. Kind of like Damage Control ran its course. Everybody was supposed to be elevated. In Damage Control, the only one who wasn't really elevated was Dakota Kai, and I think that's because she got injured. But I think this has run its course. I think it's time for everybody to kind of go off on their own thing. I don't know what you do with Dominic at this point. Maybe you put him in a tag team with Carlito. I don't know. Um, I don't know what you do with Raquel. Maybe you put Raquel over on SmackDown. She's the only one who's like height wise and build wise. She's like Charlotte and Tiffany's height and build. So you could make her like another adversary in that whole thing. I just don't know what you do with the rest of them after this. I think you have to at least put Finn back in the mid card, you know, IC belt or US title belt. You have to kind of put him in there. I don't know if they're going to put him back at the top. Triple H loved Finn Balor. Like, that was a big signing for Triple H. Finn Balor was a huge signing for NXT. It's just that, like, a lot of talent that Triple H brought over from all over the fucking world. I remember when Pete Dunne was huge. When Gunther was Walter and he was like 100 pounds more. You like all these amazing signings. Triple H would, you know, turn shit to sugar, and then they'd get to the fucking main roster and Vince would fuck them up. Like I remember Enzo and Cass were so fucking over when they got to the main roster. Now, Cass getting injured and then Enzo being accused of sexual assault obviously derailed that. But before that, remember, they ran that whole Enzo and Cass breakup line where Cass injured Enzo, and then like we did the whole 3-4 weeks of who done it, who hurt Enzo, and it turns out it was Big Cass, and it just like again, you let Vince touch something. Vince thinks that he's a genius. Like there were some times he got it right, but also keep in mind that Bruce Pritchard was back there with Vince, and Jim Cornette was back there with Vince, and rest in peace. What's my guy who's the first IC champion? God damn it, I can't think of his. Pat Patterson. Patterson and Briscoe, they were back there as well. Vince didn't create the Attitude Era on his own, and a lot of the DX stuff that was directly pitched to him from Shawn and Triple H. So there were times where Vince, it looked like Vince was right, but he had a true collective with him that actually sat in his dining room at his home where he and Linda lived, and they built the show week by week. Chris Jericho will tell you when they flew him up to try him, they talked to him before he actually I don't think Jericho had a tryout. They flew him up and talked to him, and he went to Vince's house, and they literally had a big whiteboard, and they were planning out like the next episode of Raw or something. And Vince was like, "What do you think, Chris?" He's like, "I don't know, it looks fucking good to me." Like, so this whole thing about Vince being like the greatest booker of all time, there was a collective around him. Is he the modern day PT Barnum? Absolutely. Is he also a disgusting human being? Absolutely. But he didn't do it all on his own. So again, like I said, there's a lot of great talent that came through NXT Black and Gold, and a lot of times they got to the roster and Vince fucked them over. Kevin Owens, huge example. Sami Zayn, it took Sami so long to find his footing, so anyway, I'm sorry I went off on a tangent there. Number 3, AJ Styles versus Logan Paul, 2 elite athletes squaring off on the grandest stage in professional wrestling. There's minimal story to this one, but Styles will compete in his 9th WrestleMania, 8th in singles competition, and Paul is routinely proven to be one of the best big match performers in the company. They're not calling for a winner. The community says, and I quote, "Fuck Logan Paul." I am of the same mind. I'm a huge AJ Styles guy. I think that AJ is one of the best pure wrestlers on the planet. What he did, Finn Balor and AJ Styles, like Finn was the first leader of the Bullet Club. I think AJ's right after him, and then I forget, Cody comes in somewhere down there. Um, I hate that they brought Andrew Schultz on the Raw that night, and then they had him and Logan go at it, and then they made AJ defend Andrew Schultz, because I fucking hate Andrew Schultz as a person as well. He's a despicable piece of shit himself. Um, but again, as the community said, fuck Logan Paul. It's fuck Logan Paul all day. And Logan Paul could have been wrestling anybody. It was still going to be fuck Logan Paul. AJ Styles all day. AJ fucking Styles all day. Number 4, Sin City Street Fight, Damian Priest versus Drew McIntyre. At last year's WrestleMania, Damian Priest cashed in Money in the Bank on Drew McIntyre, ending the Scottish Warriors World Heavyweight Championship reign just after just 5 minutes. He would capitalize on interference from CM Punk later that year at Clash at the Castle and defeat McIntyre to successfully retain his title. The new year brought an elimination in the Royal Rumble and Priest pinning McIntyre to introduce a feud that is intensified and concluded on the grand stage. The community has Priest for me, but I don't really care. For this one, I don't care. I literally don't care. I've never been a big Drew McIntyre guy. People forget that Drew was with the company before, because why? Because he's a big 6'6" or higher, big, strong, nicely built guy, and Vince loved guys like that. Vince didn't like small guys. Vince always thought Brett and Shawn were too small. But Hogan, piece of shit he is, was way past his prime. Ultimate Warrior had demons to fight, also a piece of shit. But, he's on the other side, so, I shouldn't probably say that about him. His family is still here. A lot of those guys that carried WWE in the early 80s, they were past their prime, and it was time to get to the new generation, which was the faster, more athletic talent. It's a shame that Razor Ramon never held the WWE Championship, the more I think about it, because rest in peace to Scott, number 1. Kevin and Scott were amazing, but Razor was the better worker out of him and Diesel. Like, it's not even fucking close. It's not even close. And Diesel held the title. But, and again, I'm sorry, went off on a tangent. I've just never been a Drew McIntyre guy. Sometimes he can pull a decent promo out of his ass, but, like, I don't know. I don't see it for this guy. And again, I'm not a big Damian Priest guy. I don't care. So it's whatever on this one. Number 5, Women's Tag Team Championship match, Bayley and Lyra Valkyria versus Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez are probably the greatest women's tag team in WWE history. Are we fucking serious with this? Or is this yo, Bleacher Report? Pause. Are you fucking crazy? Bayley and Valkyria were literally opponents Monday night on Raw and won a gauntlet match Friday night to earn their way into WrestleMania. There's not an abundance of story here, but there's potential for a fun match if given an appropriate amount of time. Community says Bayley, Lyra, but I think Liv and Raquel. This has Bayley. Actually, I'm sorry. This has Big Pammy and Lyra written all over it. If Liv and Raquel lose this match, it would help the destruction of Judgment Day. That's why it makes sense to me. I they love they love Liv. Let's be clear about that. Creative, they love Liv Morgan. I don't know how high they are on Raquel Rodriguez. If it came down to it, I think Creative would much rather have another belt on Bayley than on Raquel. The thing is, if you put 2 titles on Lyra Valkyria, I think some people will feel like it's too early. I feel like this should be Bayley and Lyra. I could be wrong, but I feel like it should be. But I'm also a super big fucking Bayley homer, so there's that. But I feel like it should be Bayley. That's just me. And then we have the main event. Big Match John Cena versus Cody Rhodes for the WWE Championship. John Cena's heel turn to Elimination Chamber on March 1st shocked the wrestling world. For well over 20 years, he was a hero to millions of fans, but amid an in-ring career that had not seen a big win in a long time, he first capitalized on interference from Seth Rollins to beat CM Punk inside the chamber, then sold his soul to The Rock in return for his 17th world title. Getting it would not be easy. Rhodes, as a fighter, improved at 2 WrestleManias in a row, answering a crushing defeat in 2023 with the biggest win of his career. The babyface who supplanted Cena as the generation's #1 good guy, he had a chance to prevent the turncoat from achieving his history-making title reign. He has a chance. I'm sorry. Doesn't look like they're picking anybody. Community says Cena, which I don't want, but I also don't care because Cody's reign has been boring to me. Here's the thing. They have totally mismanaged and booked Cody Rhodes as the champion. I get it. You kind of had to have him be a babyface the way he came back at WrestleMania with the Cody Vader, and like we didn't know who, like we knew who Seth's opponent was, but they weren't going to announce it. We knew it was going to be Cody. We knew he hadn't re-signed with AEW, the company he actually helped build. We knew it was Cody. When his music hit, actually before like you hear the, wrestling has more than one royal family, like when everybody heard that, they lost their shit. It was pitch black. That, and then Kingdom hits, and then Cody comes up in the fucking Cody elevator, right? Everybody lost their shit. Huge moment. At that point, you kind of had no choice but to make him a babyface. However, that is not the right lane for Cody Rhodes. It just isn't. They tried everything in WWE before, dashing Cody Rhodes. What was the fucking one? Stardust. Like, they tried everything and it just didn't work. And Cody said, just give me my release. And then he put out the infamous list of the people he wanted to go around the world wrestling. And he built his name. And to say that about somebody who carries the last name Rhodes is crazy. Like, I know his real name is Runnels. But effectively, this is Dusty Rhodes' kid, right? This is Dusty's baby boy. To say that anybody in the lineage of Dusty Rhodes had to build their name is insane. But that's what he did. Cody went around the world in fucking armories and gymnasiums and whatever the fuck and wrestled the best independent wrestlers on the planet. And then he went to New Japan, and what he and Nick and Matt, the Bucks did, and what they all did over in Japan, and then the Being the Elite YouTube series, Cody smoking the cigars, Cody versus Kenny Omega, like, he has amazing heat as a heel. The best way to have done this, either don't have Cena flip or have Cody flip the fuck out. Maybe Cody should be working heel in this match. I'm of the opinion, when you turn John Cena heel, it's got to be a full turn. He still got on the fucking hat. He still got on the t-shirt. He's got on the wristbands. He's got the jorts. He's got the Skechers. He's even got John Cena fucking socks on. That does not look like a bad guy to me. John Cena should have come out dressed like Cody Rhodes. A 3-piece fucking suit with a Rolex. Anything but what they're fucking parading out there now. This one they fumbled. I don't know. I don't know if they're going to let anybody pass Ric Flair. But if it was to happen, it's probably going to be John Cena. Triple H and Ric Flair used to be really, really close. And Flair is on record within the last couple of years as saying, I don't know what happened. We're just not as close as we used to be. Like, Rick was like, he was going through what would have been his third divorce. Triple H tells a story on a documentary. It was hours before Raw, and Rick was sitting up in the seats, like maybe in the lower bowl, but the highest seats of the lower bowl. And Triple H says to Vince, like, what are you going to do with Rick? And he's like, I don't know. He's like, well, let him come with me for a bit. And then they formed Evolution, and they got really fucking close. The original big gold belt, a lot of people don't know this. The NWA commissioned that belt. Vince, wrestling was all territories before WWF. Like, there was a territory up north, like in Minnesota. I think Vern Gagne ran that one. Around the New York area, that's why Madison Square Garden, Vince Sr. ran that territory. Jerry Jarrett was in the South. You had the Von Erichs in Texas. You had in Memphis, Jerry Lawler was like the guy. Vince got on USA and then started gobbling up the territories. And Vince Sr. was on record as saying, had I known he was going to do this, I would have never sold him the company. Like, you don't do that. Don't go into somebody else's territory and pull the shit that Vince did. Um, Jesus Christ, where the fuck was I going with this? I'm so pissed off at myself because I don't even remember where I was going with this point. Um, oh, Rick and Hunter. I'm sorry, and this is to make so the NWA commissioned the big gold belt. Ric Flair put up the deposit for it. It was either $100,000 or $200,000, and they were supposed to pay him back. And the NWA basically merged into what will become WCW because it was the only way they were going to be able to fight Vince because he had swallowed up the smaller territories. They worked with Turner because Turner obviously had his own network and they would get TV time that way. There was a falling out and Rick left and he called Vince and he was like, I'm coming. And he was like, I'm bringing the belt with me. That's why when he first got there, Rick was calling himself the real world heavyweight champion because he had the belt. And the NWA and WCW said, hey, bring the belt back. And Rick said, no, you never gave me the money back for the deposit, so I'm keeping the belt. When you get the money for the deposit, you can have it back. They had to commission another belt. The original belt that Ric Flair took when he left, he gave that belt to Triple H. It is somewhere in Stephanie and Triple H's home. So there was a point where I didn't think that Paul would let anybody pass Rick up. But for whatever reason, and I think it might have something to do with Rick going to work AEW because WWE told him, you're done. I think that's where the relationship might have soured between him and Triple H. So before, if you'd have been like, is anybody ever going to pass Ric Flair? I'd be like, there's not a chance. Because Ric Flair's not the greatest wrestler of all time. But as far as charisma, it's him and The Rock and Shawn Michaels. That's the list. Nobody has more charisma than those three fucking guys. Shawn Michaels is calling himself the main event before he ever main evented WrestleMania. And he said that shit and we ran with it because he had charisma and he had balls. Bret is by far the better wrestler. Shawn Michaels is the main event. He is the showstopper. He's the icon. He's the attraction. The Rock might just be the fucking final boss. Stone Cold Steve Austin is another guy on that list. But all those guys are sons of fucking Ric Flair. None of them exist without Ric Flair. Not a single one of them. And they will tell you that. Whatever happened there, I don't know. But it feels like if anybody was going to pass Flair, it could be Cena. It truly could be. That's not me picking Cena. That's just my thoughts on the situation. I do 100% agree that Cody's reign has been booked horribly. You cannot tell me otherwise. It has been extremely lackluster. All the finish the story stuff, it was cool. Now he's finished the story. What do we do after this? It has been a year of some pretty good promos. Oh, we're doing Saturday Night Main Event. Here's the old Winged Eagle title that a lot of us grew up idolizing. You come out on Monday night, you say, so what do you want to talk about? You get into these little tiffs sometimes with the Bloodline or whoever. They have yet to book Cody a true top opponent. It should have been Punk. But I guess you got to bring that him and Seth chapter to a close. Which, again, I don't know how you do that when you interject Roman in the match. It doesn't make sense to me. The psychology of wrestling booking tells us that there has to be a payoff match. And generally those matches are at WrestleMania if the feud has been going on as long as it has. You don't interject somebody else in that match. You just don't. Sometimes they'll do a triple threat if one guy refuses to lay down for the other guy. The rumor is that Stone Cold refused to lay down to Triple H at SummerSlam 99, and that's why Mick Foley got in the match. And Foley won at SummerSlam, and Triple H won the title the very next night. The rumor is Stone Cold would not lay down for Triple H at the time because he didn't. I don't know if he didn't think he was ready or whatever the situation was, but he wouldn't do it, and that's why Foley got in the match. So, I don't know. I can't pick the main event, and I can't pick the final match of Saturday night either. I really don't know. I'm expecting a good show on both nights. I will tell you that. Standout matches for me. Let's just run through the card really quickly again. Ray and Chad Gable, that's going to be actually a really good wrestling match. Tiffany and Charlotte Flair, I don't know. LA Knight and Jacob Fatu, that's going to be a good one. Punk, Rollins, and Roman, that's actually going to be a good match. I don't know who's going to win that. The match of both nights by far, though, in my opinion, is going to be the triple threat for the Women's World Championship. Rhea, Io, and Bianca, they're going to tear the fucking house down. And if they actually open the show on Sunday night, it's going to be hard for anybody to fucking follow them. I want to see the Demon Finn Balor return. I want to see AJ Styles go fucking nuts on Logan Paul. They're probably going to let Logan Paul win this, though. And I want to see Bayley come out as a tag team champion. And at this point, to be completely honest with you, if Cena goes over Sunday night, I wouldn't have a problem with that. Because they got to do something to really kickstart Cody. Or else he's going to go down as one of the worst champions in recent memory. He's not going to be as bad as fucking Miz or Alberto Del Rio or anything like that, but his reign is going to look really shitty if they don't figure this out. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, that's all I got. I'm going to go ahead and end this like I end everything else. Believe in yourself first and foremost, because if you don't believe in yourself, of course, nobody else will believe in you. As always, my name is Derek Lamont Jackson, and that is my time. You'll have a good one. Peace out.